see where it goes. The wind's changed. Got him. Beautiful.
Okay. That was a good call.
Yep.
Go again.
And again.
Okay.
That was right edge, so it's still.
Okay.
So hold. Yeah. Same spot. The wind's going to vary a little bit. And again. G'day and welcome to Marcus Sam After Work. Today we've got another entry into our 22 mini PRS ELR series. This one here is a little bit different. I'll go through a couple of details to start off with, but first off, it's the Savage in the A22R. I'll explain that in a minute. And to go through and do this series. It was a step up. We've done the basics of the Savage rifles, so we used that as our budget option in this sort of score. I wanted to then take a step up in the Savage side of things. I looked through their range, and I thought I would do two birds with one stone, a step up in the way, a little better stock, a heavier barrel, that side of things, but also something in a slightly different version, which is it's the A22R. Now what is that? It's an Australian version of Australian compliant version. The majority of Australian states have restrictions on semi-automatic rifles. Probably the world knows about that. But it means it's a bit awkward to get to license one of the any semi-automatic long rifle. And the way that this rifle has managed to come into the country is by converting it to a repeater, which is the R. Now what does that mean? What are we actually talking about? Well, this is the A22, which is a semi-automatic rifle where it's originally designed, which has been modified to turn it into a repeater. What that does, I'll put in one of the rotary magazines so it's all going to function. I'm not sure if you need to do that out, but I'm doing it anyway. That's an empty magazine I put in, by the way. I should show people so they know. So nice empty magazine in there. These go in very nice and easily, click in very easily. The way this works is when you set it, pull it back. Normally in the semi, you set it back, it's going to go forward into shoot position. It's going to load, going to rack around. With this, it just goes back and holds it, ready to rack around. You actually have to pull this lever here to let it reset and go forward. That happens every time. So when you fire it, it pushes the action back, pushes the bolt back, and then you have to reset it. So you're using the features of the semi-automatic, half doing the job, setting it back against some springs so that it's ready to rack around and go, but it's actually not racking around and going. You have to do that manually. Hence it's a repeater, not a bolt action, not a lever action, but it's a repeater that has this little lever reset. And worked really well. Okay, so that's the quirky bit that I got out of the road there. What is the rifle? Well, it is the A22. So it's the Savage semi-automatic rimfire rifle. Is the core of it that's been modified to the repeater side of it. It then has a heavy 20-inch barrel, no thread on the front of this one, but it's the heavy 20-inch barrel. This also has the Savage setup, so it means it's adjustable in the front of it from what I understand, so you can set up your headspace on that side of things. Not something we've messed with, but that's all able to happen. It's been plonked in this little Pro Varmint stock, which is a Boyds Pro Varmint stock, which are a very nice little option. These are just a laminated wood stock with a nice sort of textured coating on them, and they are in my opinion, a great little option for all smaller rifles. I don't really, personally, I'm not a big fan of using laminated stocks in higher powers and especially in magnum calibers and that sort of stuff. But in the lower centerfires or smaller centerfires and the likes of the rimfire, awesome, really like them. I like the feel about them. There's an extra thing about that wood that really does work really nice with these, so I really like the feel of them. Nice simple little buttstock, no adjustment here, but cheek rise in a good place. It's got a decent little bag rider setup system down the bottom here, really nice pistol grip. Felt really great, really like it, really good feature to go with this rifle. It has on the top here, and it comes this way with a one-piece Picatinny rail. And probably the other feature, which is not normal and probably not as good as the A22 in the normal semi-automatic form, you can buy it elsewhere, but it doesn't have the Acra trigger. And that's through the fact they can't run the Acra trigger and this, from what I understand at least, they can't run the Acra trigger with the lever release system. So what they do is put this little wide shoe on the front that fills up the hole in the trigger where the blade's been removed. And I think it was also there for the fact that these rifles used to have in here some fairly heavy springs. So they had dual springs, from what I understand at least, dual springs on both the trigger and the bolt return, which meant that it had quite a heavy spring pressure. It was around the 7 pounds of spring pressure, or 7 pounds trigger pull, and quite a heavy little thump as it returned the bolt. That has been changed. This is updated. That is no longer how you buy them. This was 4 pounds in the trigger, which is a little heavy for how we normally shoot, but actually in this combination it worked really well. It was not a detraction at all. Found it was super accurate, worked nicely. And I presume with the heavier springs on that bolt return, it would have been a little more disorientating as you actually fired it. With this, listen, in all honesty, it was a little disorientating to start off with, shooting like this, used to a 22 doing nothing until you hit the bolt. There's a little toot, and then you change the bolt. So having the punk and this feeling the action come back was a little peculiar, but it was nothing on, it did nothing against accuracy. Accuracy was very good in this rifle, and really half a dozen shots into it, it felt like normal. It was all straightforward, but it is a peculiar thing for a normal bolt shooter to run into, and to have it like this in the repeater form. It was a little bit, like I said, a little bit different to start off with, but actually turned into, worked really well. Other bits that are on the rifle, it has these dual swing swivel studs. I've used the front one to mount up this little Picatinny rail to put on the Atlas bipod on the front of it, so I'm shooting it in the same standard I'm using everything else. And then as a quick nutshell, on top of it we've got this Bushnell 4.5 to 27 by 50 first focal plane mil scope. Really nice, works really well. It came to us, it was actually provided to us by the guys at NIA over in Queensland and Australia. They're the importers for both the Savage rifles and the Bushnell scopes. And it came to us on a normal set of rings, which you'd be fine using that, you know, probably up to the 200, 300 odd yards would have been fine to use like that. We wanted to go in this series, we obviously push out to the 510 yards, so I wanted to go past that point, and I was going to want to use 26 mil, approximately 80 minutes, 26 mil of elevation to get onto our big shot. To do that, what I've done is put on some of these adjustable rings, so it lets me adjust the scope, which is what I've done. And then it let me use this scope has internally 16 mil, which is about bit over 50 minutes of elevation is what it actually has internally in it. I use that plus this little reticle. I put on the image. It's not a Horus, but it's a little holdover reticle that has wind holds and an elevation. I think it was up to around 15 mil of hold in there, and I was using around 10 mil of hold to actually do the shot. But worked well, worked really nicely. I had to back the power off a little bit to do it, but did the job. So actually a good little scope for a budget conscious tactical scope. Listen, I'll do a full review of that later on, but it worked nicely. Nice glass, really happy with it, worked really well. Okay, so that's the combination of the rifle. Trigger at 4 pounds. I think the weight of the rifle is 7.5 pounds approximately. I can't remember exactly on that score, but I'll put a link on there with that. Felt really nice, and I'll also put a weight on what it comes to an addressed weight. But actually felt really nice. Both of us found the stock, the release lever, the trigger, the whole lot shot really well, and surprisingly so. I was a little bit in the world of ready to see some issues. In a semi-automatic side of things, or which this is sort of doing half of, there's something happening as the bullet's going down the barrel. So there's more likely to be wriggles and things that could potentially open up a group in the way of trying to get real precision out of them. From what I understand, in the A22, when they go into the little Magnum calibers, so the 17 HMR and the 22 WMR, so the Magnum 22, they actually have a little delayed feature, which means that when it goes bang, it waits for a moment before it actually cycles the bolt, so that the bullet comes straight out without anything moving. To be honest, it felt a little bit like that. I don't think that is the case with the 22 long rifle, but it felt a little bit like that. It's definitely a little bit sort of a bang, and there's this whole action thing happening as the sort of target's moving. So it sort of felt like it was delayed in the when it was happening. But listen, I don't know, not supposed to be. What I would say, accuracy was really nice. It shot really well for both of us. It actually performed really well, so no concerns with the bolt moving. It actually shot beautifully. Really, really happy with it. Well, listen, I think that's the overview I've got in the rifle. Let's go and see what actually happened at target. Well, here we are. We went through a couple of magazines each, plinking, zeroing the target, that sort of getting settled, getting a little bit familiar with it, and then we did 10 rounds each at our FTC target. Now, FCT target is 2.5 inch to 1/4 inch little gongs out, or swingers out at 50 yards. So that's what we went through, and you can see here that's actually how it went. There was one shot each, one magazine each, and it went through. We managed to get them all. Worked really nicely. Really, really happy. We're both getting pretty familiar with doing that, getting eyes in that sort of stuff, making sense of things, and it sort of disproves a little bit the flyers in 22s and that sort of stuff, the way these things are shooting, but really on there, got it done both times really well.
Beautiful. Excellent. Good one. And hitting properly. I made it easy.
So then
Okay.
we took from that, we went to the 100-yard target.
Different.
Now that's
But it felt
actually
quite comfortable when I
that was
was
actually
getting into
103 yards, I think it was.
Yeah, it is.
I'll put the measurement on there exactly.
I'll give you that.
What we've actually done there, a little bit of time crunch with what we're trying to do. We're trying to fit things in. We got a good day, had lots of cloudy days, windy days, all the rest of it this time of year. But we got a good moment, so we're out there and doing it. But we were trying to fit other things in that day as well. When we set up that 100-yard target, we found you could only really use the top 3. Thought, okay, listen, it's still going to show the accuracy. We'll go and have a little shot at that. And when you went through and did that, it shot really nicely.
So just hold dead on.
Sam went on, that went through really nicely. One little miss in there. Listen, not uncommon. There's a little bit of wind. You really don't get to see where your hits are exactly landing. So there's one in that, but that worked really nicely and was testament to how well things are working.
Okay, and work back up. Got him, beautiful. Got that other number 2 to stay over the left.
Yeah.
Try again. Beautiful. See if you can get your top one.
Okay.
Easy.
Okay.
Then
Okay,
we're out
cool.
to the
Well.
263 yards. So 263 yards on a 6-inch gong. So we've got our little 6-inch gong that we're shooting out, or
And
6-inch
reset.
hanging plate out there. And that's, I actually have the footage of exactly what we did. We're on
just
pretty
off top right
close
corner.
with a dial in.
Very close.
So work everything dialing in nicely. Rifle shooting like it's supposed to. Got very similar speeds, whether they're 21 or 22-inch barrels. They're all running very, very similar speeds on that side of things. So we're using the same sort of data all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a couple of shots, and I'd worked out a hold, and then I hit on that plate. And the fascinating thing is I actually decided to hold that and actually shoot at that same hold 4 shots in a row. And as you can see by that, I would say we ended up with, listen, an inch, maybe an inch and a half group on those 4 shots. So super impressive. You get lucky sometimes, but we're starting to show some signs of some real accuracy in this little combination.
It looks like it's the same spot.
I then actually, I didn't put that on footage, but I went through and shot a few more times, and one of my shots actually knocked the thing off. I was just going to centre it, work out the dialing so I could put Sam on and have a run, and I knocked
still about the same
the target around, so it unhooked. Swinging away, I hit it again, and thought, okay, that looks pretty fascinating. It should be fairly dynamic doing that sort of stuff. We'll give Sam 10 rounds and see how she goes.
Yep. Didn't see nothing. Oh, way right.
Oh, okay. The wind, eh?
Yeah, so hold.
On the left frame?
Yeah, for the moment. Let's see where it goes. The wind's changed. Got him. Beautiful.
Okay. That was a good call.
Yep.
Go again.
And again.
Okay.
That was right edge, so it's still.
Okay.
So hold. Yeah, same spot. The wind's going to vary a little bit. And again. Oh, just missed. He just rocked out of your road.
I held a little bit more left.
Okay.
I'll just hold on the frame.
Yep. And again, beautiful.
Okay.
That's nailing it.
Yeah. I'll go for the magazine.
Yep. And again. Good work. Oh no, that's a bit too far now. The wind was hotter here but lower there.
Yeah, okay.
And again.
It must be nearly out, I'll see.
I'd say so.
Yep, there we go.
Okay, that was good work.
Look at that. That shot really well. A little bit hard to say exactly where the group is when it's shooting like that, but pretty damn good to get on that regularly. Both Sam and the rifle did really well in that format. So that worked really well. I'm really, really impressed with it. It's we're both starting to really like this little rifle, liking how it's working. Its repeater system is working really well. I know for the people who've got it in the semi-automatic would say, why would you do that? Listen, we've got to, but I quite like the way it shot. It meant every time you pull the trigger, the gun was safe until you did something. So for being a bolt action shooter, that's sort of a bit more how I shoot. But I really liked it. And being able to keep your eye down, your trigger position all in the same position has some merits to it as well. So listen, shooting really well. So then out to the 510 yards. Now I should say at that moment, intersection, all that stuff we were shooting as we do with everything else, the CCI standard velocity. And as per normal, I would say, yes, there's probably rounds that people have got these and say there's different rounds that shoot better. I've no doubt. I've found, and as we've shown, these shoot well for us. And what we're doing is standardizing. We could probably spend a year on every rifle figuring out exactly what shot with all that sort of stuff, but these shot really well, and that's why we're using it as a standardizing. To go to the 500 yards, we're using the velociter. We're not using the CCI, the standard velocity, because it would take 120 to 130 minutes of elevation, so well past what we've got.
Right and low. 3 targets right, 3 targets low.
But a lot more elevation.
Awesome.
We were actually only using, with these, comes down to around 80 minutes of elevation, or 26 mil in this case. So with the 510 yards, using the velociter, I was going to need approximately 26 mil, approximately 80 minutes or 26 mil of elevation. Now with this little scope set up on these adjustable rings, as I did previously, gave me 16 mil of elevation in the scope. And using the reticle that I've got in here, which is a, and I'll put an image on there, it's not a Horus, but it's got a nice holdover reticle in there. Backed off the power so I could use that. It's going to need approximately 10 mil of elevation in the way of holdover, and also needed a little bit more. I had a 3 mil of windage. I was using around about 5 to 6 mil of windage in the way of getting on there. But using those using that scope and using the holdover there, that worked really well. It was on really easily. We're on there. pretty damn quickly. Actually in the first magazine got what we thought was hit to start off with. There's actually a ricochet onto the plate. And then only a few shots later on actually hit the plate. So I'll show you what that group looked like and how consistent that was being. But that was performing really well for everything in it. The little scope, and yes, a bit more elevation in the scope, so going up a step. And I will do a full review on this scope. But for a budget conscious tactical scope, it worked really nicely, worked really well, really happy with it. And the rifle and the setup with the cheek riser, the butt stock the way it is, it worked really nicely. I was really happy with it, performed really nicely, really nice comfortable feel to it. I do like the sort of feel that these little Boyds stocks give, and so that in this combination I was really happy with. The whole lot, and as I said, it's a 4-pound trigger, so I normally, my target rifles and my extreme stuff, I'm down in the 1 pound just under type thing. In the normal 22s I try and get in the 2 pounds, you know, 1.5 is the light trigger, 2.5 pounds is sort of nice in the rimfire stuff or the hunting type of thing. 4 pounds in measuring it was pretty heavy, but in shooting it, it really didn't feel that way. It was not a detraction at all. So listen, overall my thoughts on it, I like it, really lots of fun. It's something that if I had the choice of having hundreds of guns, it would be in the 22s. It's something that's come into one that is really nice and really fun to shoot. Combination of it worked really well. Obviously this would also work well in a hunting form and that side of things, but really what we're talking about in a level in the mini PRS side of things, I think it is something to consider in the fact that it does have this little easy keep your eye position right using your other hand reset rather than the bolt side of things. I think that would work for some people, but listen, overall I really liked it. Good little package. Thank you very much to the guys at Naya for letting us review this. Really happy with it. We've got some more things that we'd like to get from you guys also, but for this one, for the Savage, which is what we're really talking about today, I like it. Great little combination. Be very interested to try one in the fully semi-automatic at some stage. So going with the A22 and the blade trigger, and with the Acra trigger I should say, and seeing if there is any real differences in the shooting of it. Don't know if there would be a lot, you know, you've just got a bit more trigger safety and keeping your finger off type thing, but other than that, I think it's going to perform very similarly. So yeah, for us, thumbs up, good one, really like it. For the Savage side of things, I hope for the people who were disappointed that the little super budget one was not quite as competitive as the ones with a bit more money, this certainly steps Savage right back up into the game. Yeah, hope you liked it. Leave any comments or thoughts you've got below, and thanks for checking in on us, guys. We'll see you next time.
Hi guys, Sam here. For folks that are interested in our products that you will have seen in our videos, these are all products that Mark has designed through our experience in ELR shooting. We manufacture them here ourselves. The likes of our adjustable bag bases, bag riders, bipod systems, muzzle brakes, shot data recording sets, and even our great fun little 22 long rifle target. These are all available in our web store, the links to which are below this video, along with our contact information. And guys, we work hard at putting these videos together, so we appreciate all the help we can get. For those of you who haven't subscribed, don't forget and hit the bell so you get notifications of when our videos come out. It would be awesome to get some financial support. So for those of you who can, you can purchase support bits on our web store, which help us bring these videos to you. Thanks for watching. See you next time.